Today, we're getting under the hood of perimenopause with EJ, an intelligent strategist, women's health advocate, innovator, social impact investor, and the co-founder of NNABI, the first peri company redefining how women experience perimenopause. How old were you when your perimenopause began?
Was 37. I didn't know back then, to be honest with you, but looking back, that's when it was. I remember my hair texture changing so dramatically. Something was weird. I wasn't sure if it was a weather. I wasn't sure what it was, but my hairdresser was the one who actually brought it to my attention. And she asked me if I was pregnant, and I wasn't. And it was one of those situations that I could see and feel the difference, and a lot of other symptoms that I was experiencing from PCOS. I just thought that it was one of those. I didn't really think anything big, but looking back, that was sort of the start of my perimenopause at 37.
What were some unexpected symptoms or experiences that you've encountered during this phase of perimenopause?
I'm learning perimenopause is a very long phase. It can be a couple of years to a decade or more, depending on a person. And I'm very much in it. And I'm learning about my body and what my body is capable of as time goes on. And I'll say that some unexpected symptom that really shocked me, frankly, vertigo, like crazy dizziness, which I never had, itchy ear, burning tongue, which is just so weird, but I'm experiencing actually as we speak, and then low mood. Contrarily, what I expected though were like foggy brain, fatigue, irregular periods, but also PCOS comes with irregular periods. So it's really hard to pin down because of PCOS, because I'm perimenopause. And I think that's why actually it's really one of the harder things for women to acknowledge, not only me, but because we're still menstruating in perimenopause and feels like everything is normal. We still feel young. And it's just that our lives has been gotten a little more hectic with a lot of responsibilities, and it's been difficult to finding quality time, and there's always something we're doing, right? So I think it's just to think of it as life and stress and aging. Didn't think of anything else, but then realize that there's something underlying that's happening called perimenopause, and some of these unexpected symptoms really threw me off, just like many women would as well. But I think it's been really helpful for me to connect with people just like me. And what are you experiencing? Isn't that weird? And that conversation, and we start creating a small community. And then now we're just having a little bit more of a support from one another, knowing that some things that we're going through that's really shocking sometimes are not that weird anymore.
How did this make you feel?
So when you're not in control of your own device, it feels like it could feel like broken GPS, and that's not a good feeling. Especially someone who really needs to have a plan, needs to know where I'm going. I'm in control. That is sort of what used to drive me. So, forgetfulness and not feeling as confident and not feeling as social, a lot of those things can impact me and my life and the activities that I choose to do. And so that makes me wonder, like, what is change, and, what does this mean? And that kind of can be a little bit anxiety and fear as well, because you don't know what is happening to you. So there's sort of that negative. But I also realized that learning more about my body has been a gift. And I am also more aware when someone within sort of my cohort are acting or behaving certain way. I think I have a more sympathy and empathy for them, because there must be something underlying that they may be having a hard time articulating. But also, I think about mom a lot. My mother and I were very close. She passed away 7 years ago. But I sometimes think about, what if I know what I know now back then? So I could have been more supportive and more understanding, and just could be there for her. That would have been awesome. But, a little too late. But I think about that, and I think about her quite some time, especially when I'm going through that sort of cycle of perimenopause, that ups and downs.
How did you navigate the emotional changes and mood swings associated with perimenopause?
I am still working on it and working through it. There's no quick fix here. I'm learning about the hormones for quite some time, and my goodness, it does its own thing. It's doing its own erratic fluctuation, whether we like it or not. And that's really, what perimenopause is. And I am trying not to get too shocked by the mood swings that I experience. It's been difficult to control at times. And I started to make a log about it, looking at my pattern, trying to understand, syncing with my cycles and the events and um, just my overall sort of immunity and state of my mood. So I try to understand as much as I can, and also I had to do some explanation to my partner that it wasn't me to be choosing to be unpleasant, but it's really that Perry talking at times. I don't want it to sound like an excuse either, and I think sometimes that's how I feel. Sometimes you don't want to put everything as perimenopause, but just sometimes being understood by people that you love that who may not go through this is really the hardest thing. So I want to make sure that I'm creating awareness and finding a better way to articulate myself. And when I do feel that I am upset, irritable, sad, sometimes those are the mixed emotions that comes with low mood of perimenopause. I try to acknowledge it. Sometimes I try to just let it happen because try to also reverse it. And enforcing it is also very uncomfortable. So I'm trying to experience something and acknowledge the moment and try to also keep a record of it so I can try to understand my body better.
How did you approach discussing perimenopause with your healthcare provider, and what advice would you give to other women in similar situations?
I would say you first thing first, you have to advocate yourself. And I never really truly understood this. I thought that if you just go see your doctor, then you're doing something good for yourself. But I realized that that was not enough, especially when doctors do not learn about perimenopause in med school. So they're not as equipped. And I think that's where I needed to really push. I needed to ask the questions, and just because you are at the doctor's office doesn't mean you're going to be taken care of, and that's the realization. Healthcare system does not also make it easy for us. You have what, max 10 minutes when you go to the doctors, and so you sometimes forget what you're going to ask, and you forget the right way of asking, and then you kind of like, whoa, like, what did I say? You kind of forgot. So we kind of have to work with what we have, but I think it does start with educating ourselves, like educating myself about my own symptoms and how to articulate it, because sometimes a feeling off is not helpful to someone to help me. So prepping the dialogue, prepping the questions for the doctor, I think that's good. And that's something I spend time on. And perimenopause is not something you take like a blood work and be like yes or no. It's known through symptoms. So again, that's where I try to understand what are the symptoms that are associated with perimenopause and try to connect the dot to, kind of my own experience. So I have some record and then evidence of like, how to unpack that, how I feel. And I will say to a lot of sort of my fellow peri friends that breaking up with your doctor happens quite often during perimenopause. Just because she delivered your baby doesn't mean she's going to be the perfect doctor for you as you navigate this peri stage. So sometimes it's a difficult decision and difficult conversation, but it's absolutely okay, especially if you're dismissed and you're not getting the help you need. You just have to seek other provider and physicians. So I think that is something that advocating yourself comes with a lot of the work that you need to do with yourself and negotiating with yourself as well. If you're not getting the help, you got to ask for it.
Did you encounter any misconceptions about perimenopause from others, and how did you address them?
I think the classic one is that if you're menstruating, you're too young to be in perimenopause. Like, don't worry about it. Like, so that's like the very classic case. And that is absolutely false. People get confused by this, but during perimenopause, you are still menstruating. Periods can be regular or irregular, but you are menstruating. Menopause is a one day that you haven't had your menstruation for 12 consecutive months. And then we enter post-menopause world. Until then, we live in a peri-menopause world. And according to actually research from University of Virginia, which came this year, this came out this year, peri can start as early as in our 30s. So that's quite, young. And it's so I'll say it's never too early to know about this and think about this and talk about this. And this subject of perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause should be really treated like a sex education at school. So I talk to a lot of our friends and, sort of and also younger colleagues, and just try to build awareness. And I think that there's no real curriculum out there, unfortunately. So it really just start with our conversation and try to normalize the conversation, and educating is where we start and how we deal with it.
What resources or support networks do you find helpful during this phase of your perimenopausal journey?
So when I learned more about what perimenopause was, and I was really shocked, first of all, how little support there was or resources to even go to. And all the doctors that are out there talking a lot about perimenopause today, I'll say about 5 years ago, like you didn't really know who they were. And, frankly, the word perimenopause was very foreign to a lot of people. Um, and I actually was curious, just being curious. I looked at the search data, literally the word perimenopause exactly 5 years ago, and as of like last week, and the search term went up like 455%. Like, so the good news is that we are learning about it, and there are more people talking about it. Um, so when I got into the world of perimenopause and how like I had no idea where to go and who to listen to, I started listening to podcasts here and there, but again, there's not a lot. So I ended up actually creating a company that is solely focusing on supporting women just like myself in perimenopause, so that it could be like a one-stop destination for all things peri short for perimenopause. So we are educating with expert-led insights, and then we have a supported community, which just like really gets you. So it's not blending peri/menopause or like call it midlife as a big blanket, but really targeting perimenopause community. And then also work with a set of doctors to formulate a botanical solution so that's accessible to everyday women on a daily basis. So this is how I'm helping and helping myself, talking to doctors and different people who are doing research so that I can kind of curate the information to people like myself who might be wondering where to go. And then it's still my ambition and the company's ambition to continue to build this out as more people are understanding we're still in a inception of category building, frankly. So perimenopause will be studied more. There needs to be more data in generally in women's health, but especially in midlife and perimenopause. So that will be something they will be working on. And along the way, I think, I do tend to pay attention to there is a lot of startups popping up like Perry. There's a lot of sort of curated content players like Hot Flash Inc., The Mist. And then there's some nonprofit organizations such as Let's Talk Menopause. They're all been a very good go-to places for credible information. So we don't have to circle and get lost in the information too much, but at least those are the places that I tend to go to check out the new insights.
What has your perimenopause journey been like?
It's been just like perimenopause is a bit of a wild ride roller coaster. Now I do understand why perimenopause is referred to as a second puberty. It's not a medical term, but that's how often referred to. There are certainly uncomfortable things happening because what I thought I was, what my body was capable of. I mean, a lot of things are just been like changing. So adjusting all of a sudden, how I eat, types of lifestyle that I need to adjust, the things that I need to think about that I have to think about. These are the quite overwhelming at times, but also I'll have to be honest that there are some empowering things that's been happening as well. So it's really, I feel like within my peri stage, I've been more clear about what I want, my purpose, what my values are. I mean, I've never been this clear. And I do think that I'm at a point in my life where what I believe, what I want to do, and then how I want to spend my time, it's all very like lined up. It's perfect triangle. And I think that makes me most productive and also most purposeful and intentional in anywhere and everywhere I show up and what I choose to do. So I love that aspect of this stage of my life. Of course, that sometimes body just kind of failing on you. And especially I was talking about different symptoms that's shocking. It does throws me threw me off. But then I think that that's just part of the program. I try to understand as, hey, it's a part of program. You got to find a way to learn more about your body and also give yourself time to adjust. And I think that's the harder thing to do for me. But I'm trying to create a space and time to do that, so that I'm being kind to myself, as I am accommodating sort of the me being in transition, to something supposedly more powerful and, the self that I want to be. And so, yeah, I don't think it's all negative. It's been a good and bad, but it's all actually working towards something beautiful. And I am grateful that I'm in it.
What changes, if any, did you make to your diet, exercise, or self-care routine to manage perimenopause symptoms?
Oh boy, I mean, I had to change everything. I think I'm still really evaluating my playbook, if you will. And I think this is something that a lot of women get overwhelmed. But just to unpack a couple things that I'm doing. So I'll say eating the rainbow. That's what my doctor told me. I need to be eating the rainbow. And classic diet 101, but really eat more colors is something I'm trying to do. The fiber, the protein, and it really just be mindful of what I'm eating. And I think, again, when I used to do a lot of long day of work, I mean, the emotional eating and choosing unhealthy things and things like that, right? So how do you cut them down and do more of planning a meal and then making sure that things are balanced? And also, I never thought I'll be one of those people have like walking pads underneath of your desk. But I'll just say I'm that person, recently, as a couple months ago, and I'm liking it because you got to move your body. And sometimes, we are sitting down so long, so many hours. So, and also I do cancel plans to create my time to rest and recharge. And this sounds really simple, but when you have a lot of commitment and obligations, yes, you only have 24 hours, but also you want to be everywhere. You want to be there for people, but you also realize that you just can't be everywhere. So that's a bit of like reconciliation on my end to making sure that I am being most thoughtful on how I spend time. Um, I'll be honest with you, sleeping has been a very difficult thing to change, but I'm making progress though. I do get very excited at nighttime because that's like when no one's calling me. I have like very quiet space to do whatever I want. So I do get really excited. But then, of course, you have to get up next morning and do everything again. So, how do I make sure that I'm getting the quality sleep? I know a lot of people are, wearing Aura Ring and things like that. I haven't done that yet, but being more just conscious about when I go to bed and also the environment that I create, like making a really dark room and things like that. Even just that. Actually, my doctor told me like make the room really dark, and something that I didn't do, especially living in New York City, can be, quite difficult, but invest in the blinds and, really good blinds. So things like that. So these are the things that I've been doing to just help me manage my cortisol level and, like the kind of mindfulness, like 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, kind of breathing exercise and things like that. Again, I'm not doing anything really major, but I think that those are the things that's been really helpful hack, if you will, as I'm navigating this perimenopause body and time.
Were there any positive or empowering aspects of your perimenopause journey that surprised you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that again, I'm paying more attention to my body, and I do think that now I'm in a life stage where not only I know more about my body, but I also have more resources, and that's been really good to connect. You could just have to connect the dots. And also, not only physically, but also sort of psychologically. And I do think this transition is helping me, again, be more intentional in things that I do, saying no, like not allowing things to that compromise who I am, or owning this journey sort of is a simple concept, but truly owning it, I think takes a lot of time and work in yourself with in yourself and with yourself. So I think some of those things that I feel is actually really energizing. So I get to pick the projects that I really want to work on. And if I choose to work on something, like I bring full, myself fully, because that's the what I chose to do. And it's a different type of energy that I had in my 20s. But I'll say that there's something really nice about like the wisdom meets the a bit of the, I don't know, being clever, I guess. So I think combination of this, so not only physically, I am definitely, feeling myself growing, but I think mentally, psychologically, I think there's also some power to what I am becoming, which I really like experiencing right now.
What are the top 5 tips you would give to another woman going through their perimenopausal journey?
Yes. So if I may, one, don't just brush your feelings off as life or aging or stress. I think it's so easy for us to do that. But I think in this stage of perimenopause, I think it's really important to think that there may be something more underlying change that's happening and that's contributing. Not everything is perimenopause, but I do think it's really important to know that there is something like that that we are likely to naturally experience. So that's one. Two, learn your symptoms. Again, perimenopause is symptom led. There's no one test to say black and white, you're in or you're out. So, that means that we really need to understand our body, our symptoms. So it really starts there. And I'll say number three will be, advocating for your body, your health and well-being, not your doctor. I mean, doctor hopefully is there to help you, but you have to push and you have to ask for things that even if you feel uncomfortable, you're speaking for you. And, don't trust that the physician will know it all. They actually don't learn about this thing, perimenopause in med school. So don't leave your health and your well-being to a specialist fully. And four, I'll say adjust your playbook. I talked about integrated sort of my peri playbook as my body's changing. So mostly lifestyle adjustment, like little hacks you can do. So it doesn't have to be so daunting and overwhelming. But I do really believe that peri is a time that you're reevaluating, not only where you are, but also like what you are and how your body copes with things. So need to really take that time to know it, and we've been living in this body for some time. So you think but you actually don't because it's still changing. So, don't force anything, but try to understand and what used to work for you in your 20s and 30s. Sorry, but it's not going to work. So we have to kind of come up with a different playbook. And lastly, I'll say, embrace this transition of perimenopause as a powerful and transformative time, because I do think, as I said earlier, not only physically things are happening, but mentally, psychologically, a lot of things are happening that really clears our mind. Often people talk about like crisis in midlife. I think that perimenopause is the most clear time, like the clarity comes to your life and you are never this clear in terms of what you are, how you want to spend your time. And I think that's very powerful. So I would say that change can be uncomfortable, but I think, sometimes I tell myself that, EJ, you are exactly where you need to be and don't be afraid and just kind of go through it with your chin high and surrounded by people, hopefully get you and get your journey. And then they're there to support you and listen to you.